thrilled that I get to follow Ned Crowdy to introduce Jim Westbrook, who does not have a bazillion goals for Duke last year, and also to follow all these great jokes about our good friend Veronica over here, who's not actually in labor yet, but it's coming soon enough. 2 months. I really am honored and I'm very flattered to get to introduce a great transplant from Rochester down here, my friend Jim Westbrook, who I think a lot of us know. And I thought I'd say some nice things about him, but then I thought again, and thought better of that, and I thought I'd better just tell you the truth instead. Sorry, Jim. Jim's a love-hate kind of guy. Coaches love him and they hate him. And now that he's coaching instead of reffing, refs get to hate him and love him. And I think the love is because he's always got a smile on his face, and he's always got a great comeback for just about any situation. And the hate is because he adamantly has never once in his life made a bad call. But Jim's a pretty easy target because I think we've known him for a long time, and I did tell you that I was going to tell you the truth. He's been an exceptional referee and an ambassador for the sport of lacrosse in the state of Georgia. He's cool under pressure. He's fair-minded. He's a mentor to new and veteran officials. And he's always a patient student and a teacher of the rules of the game. And if you get into a lengthy conversation with him, the nuances of the exact application of those rules. I've seen coaches who Jim has ejected from a game, enjoying his company just a week later. I've seen players whose temper Jim's been able to diffuse with just a quick word. And I've seen scores of officials who've gone from average to good to just excellent under his tutelage. A week ago, the Georgia Lacrosse Officials Association got the great opportunity to hear Jim speak and give the speech was his 5 pet peeves as a coach, which was great to hear. I think they're similar pet peeves that most coaches have, and I think he did a very good job of representing the coaches in that, but if he didn't, it's his fault. But the great thing that we got to do is we really had the chance to honor the person who was one of our founding members among the Georgia Lacrosse Officials Association, the founding president of GLOA, and whose influence has really just been felt throughout the whole state. I'd say that one of the things that Jim's probably most proud of, outside of the thousands of games he's refereed, probably almost as many games refereed as Ned Crowdy has goals, but I'm not sure about that. What I think he's probably most proud of is something that you probably don't know about, or hopefully you do know about it, but you probably don't know his role in it. And that's the establishment of 2 great funds to help players and to help referees who maybe need a little bit extra. And that's the Ron Maloney Fund and the Kevin Moore Fund. And I would argue that those are 2 of Jim's legacies that are probably the most significant contribution to Georgia lacrosse, at least in my mind. I'm really humbled to know you, Jim. You're a class act, and I'm glad that several of your family and friends are here to be able to honor you as well. And so I'm not going to speak any more about it. I'm going to turn it over to him, and I give you Mr. Flag Down himself, Jim Westbrook.
Because ordinarily, with your last name, W, you're used to going last, and I saw it in the program alphabetically. I figured I was going first. So, but this is a special thrill. Great honor, great night. I first was introduced to lacrosse at age 12. And I got introduced to the game not because I was able to play at our school. We didn't have a team when I was in high school. But my brother John went to Ithaca College. He was a football player. And he came home springtime. I remember sitting having dinner. And he goes, "I'm playing the neatest sport this spring." And I go, "What's that?" And he goes, "Lacrosse." I go, "Well, explain it to me." So he goes, "I'm playing defense." He goes, "You wear helmets, you got a stick, you got gloves, and when your guy has the ball, you can do anything to him but hit him in the head or tackle him." Wow, this is my type of sport. Now, I didn't look at a rule book till 1984, but I would submit to you that in 1967, that wasn't an accurate description of what the rules of lacrosse were. But when I went to college in 1975, I played like that, those were the rules. I got to school, and I played for a couple good teams. We had a couple good teams at RIT. We had a team at Canton Tech that actually got to the Final Four of the JUCO. And there's a couple little honors here and there for me, but the one thing that no one can ever take away from me, and I got to hook up with Coach Smart later because we got something in common. I led every team I played on in penalty minutes. So, and ordinarily at the end of the season, the stats were a little embarrassing because it's like a 4 or 5 to 1 multiplier over the guy in second place. And so, got out of college in 1981, started refereeing in '84, and so back at that time, I'd see all my old buddies. And it was very ironic, and the guys used to get the biggest kick out of the fact that, me, who was described as a hack, a big hack, or the biggest hack we've ever played with, got to be a referee. But, after a while, refereeing really became fun. It's difficult at first because, first game I did or second game I did, I remember, making an out-of-bounds call. Clearly it was a blue ball, and I called it blue ball, and people are going freaking nuts. It's like, oh my goodness gracious, what have I got myself into? But after a while, you gain your confidence, and you're doing some games, so it's a lot of fun. And I continued to referee, and Margaret and I got married in '93, and it didn't take long for refereeing to become a family event for the Westbrooks, because by then I'd refereed 10 years, and I got, was doing some college games, and I got my first big college assignment in 1994, spring of '94. And Margaret at the time looked very much like Veronica does tonight. I don't want to scare you, but, she really did. And so, Nazareth College was the reigning Division III national champs, and I was the third guy on the crew, and I was probably pretty nervous all week, and go to do the game, get done doing the game, and Coach Nelson from Nazareth, he blasted me a couple times, but I got through it. It was fun, got through it. Go walk out in the parking lot, we're going to have dinner, and Margaret goes, "Yeah, I'm having labor contractions." I go, "When that start?" She goes, "Oh, about 9 this morning." I says, "Wow, why didn't you tell me?" She goes, "Oh, I didn't want to get you nervous." So, Melissa was born the next morning. This is a Saturday. Melissa's born on Sunday. And on Monday afternoon, I did a game at Monroe Community College. Thank God Margaret's parents were living close by because, that Saturday I did a game at Hobart. And so we go out after a game, or after the beer, or after the game for a beer. And so I'm sitting there, I said, I really ought to get going home. We got a baby at home. So the lady goes, I'm about to just take a sip out of the beer. The lady goes, "When did the baby get born?" I go, "Sunday." She grabs the beer, puts it down. You better get in your car and go home right now, young man. So 1996, we're sitting in our kitchen having coffee on a Sunday. It's Mother's Day. 7 inches of snow. We would look at each other and said, "What are we doing here? What are we doing in Rochester?" I said, "Yeah, let's look at moving south." And Margaret's sister lived in Atlanta. Seemed like a logical choice for a civil engineer to get a job. And the next year, 97, we made the plan to move down here. And at that time, I got selected to do the New York State high school championship game, contest as a result of, 150 teams playing. But I couldn't do the game because we were moving. No big deal. I'll get a state championship game in Georgia for sure. Next year I did. It was a championship of 5 teams. So it was a little different. Not what I was expecting, but it still was fun. As I recall, Darlington won. Coach Foote hollered at me the whole game. No big deal. And I do remember the kids were small. And they all seemed to have this power right-hand cradle going. But now it's 5 teams, and now we're at 2011, 66 teams. And the kids aren't small. They're big. They're athletic. And they're good. They're really good. And how do you get from point A to point B? Well, it's there's people in the room. There's been any number of people that have contributed, and I think, just a couple anecdotes will make this point. Early on, when we first started, even before it was the Georgia Lacrosse Officials Association, just had a bunch of guys getting together, needed a place for your officials meetings. And I remember Damian was the coach at Westminster. He says, "Don't worry about it. Come in my room. I'll stay late, grade papers, or do something." And he kept his room open, and for us to do our meetings. And later on, he facilitated having meetings there. Over the years, when Ron Melanie passed away, I think it was 2005, we all got together, the officials, and we put a bunch of money in the bucket, and we gave it to Ron's family to help pay his expenses. But then we said, well, we got to remember Ron. And so we established a Ron Maloney Fund. So before it was funded, before we really had any money in it, Ken Lovick and Georgia Tech were very generous. First couple of years, they gave us the scholarships to give away, we've really paid for it, but we didn't. Then over the subsequent years, a couple of years after that, they discounted the scholarships, so we were able to really make an impact. And I think we've probably given out approximately 50, 55 scholarships over the years. And back, when we first started it, the economy's booming, there really wasn't a need. Now we're getting applications all over the place, and it's just a real great thing. In 2008, I think it was, 2009, I was asked to be the commissioner of the Georgia Middle School League. June Hafer did great work prior to that in getting things going. I kind of picked up where she left off. And you got to meet all these people. You got these coaches with these great resumes. And we got, behind every coach is a couple of assistant coaches. And then you got these people, these ladies, typically ladies, running the program. And in Northview, when I was coaching, it was pretty simple because all you had to do is show up with your ball bag and a practice plan. And people like Cheryl Kirch and Jane Kenyon and Patty Keeney were all working behind the scenes to get things organized for us. And so this has just been just a wonderful experience for me. We, in 2009, when I really officially stopped refereeing, I formed the North Georgia Officials Association, primarily to get help Brandon Allen out at Newtown Park. We've also assigned officials to some of the local high schools for their middle school teams. But out of that little organization, we've kept kind of this theme of the Ron Maloney Fund going. And we've been able to help out kids, with camp scholarships. And, recently when tragedy struck at Northview, it was so gratifying to see Damian, as a member of that association, and kids giving money to this fund. It was just so gratifying. So, in closing, I'd just like to say a couple things. One is my compliments to the fellow inductees. Many thanks to Eric Rudolph and the board for taking me in, and many thanks to Margaret for supporting me all these years. Thank you very much.